Before the war to end all wars, we had the Great War, the First World War, World War I. This was a global war that occurred from 1914 to 1918 in Europe, Africa, the Middle East, Pacific Islands, and China. 9 million military souls would be claimed by this event, and 7 million more civilian. A casualty rate compounded by the state-of-the-art technological advancements of its time, and tactical standstill caused by the ghastly trench warfare. Why am I reading you these grisly history facts? Because developer DICE decided to take on this setting for their latest installment of the mega franchise, Battlefield. Welcome everybody. DeltaBugles here, bringing you an honest second opinion of Battlefield 1. In a time when it seemed like every game developer was propelling more and more into the modern and futuristic setting, to much of the surprise and delight of myself and thousands of others, a AAA game went back in time. EA and DICE not only read the tea leaves of those yearning for days of old, but acted upon it. And here we are.
This is the big one. Our orders are to punch through the German line.
Outside of their dual-entry Bad Company series, Battlefield games have never quite been able to make too big of a splash in their campaigns. Try as they might, it's never been more impactful than your typical war hero fare. Since World War I encompassed so many belligerents, DICE decided to take advantage of that, which led them to create multiple acts across the different fronts of the war. Within each of these acts were chapters that explore the different settings and feature different mechanics that Battlefield has to offer, such as stealth, flight, and ground vehicle warfare.
Good shot, McManus!
I must say, this is the first time that DICE really truly exploited the variety of their gameplay to its fullest in a campaign.
Incoming!
They were a lot of fun. In addition to that, each act also encompassed their own unique cast of characters and the various armies that took part in the war. And this is where the campaign truly shined.
No, don't swear. She does not like it when you swear.
The production value and the emphasis on character development paid dividends as you truly cared about these larger-than-life heroes.
It was my only choice.
Comparing all the acts against one another, I can say there were a few good ones, a decent one, but there was also an absolutely fantastic one that I honestly wish DICE would spin off that act into its own game entirely. It was that good.
Here it comes, boys. Nice serving with your lads.
But that leads me to bring up that this format actually does have a crux. Though in general the single player is amazing and filled with heart and soul, these acts are relatively bite-sized, and you never really played a character long enough for them to achieve the impact that they could have made if it was a more focused experience. It kind of makes me torn, as I love the variety of setting and characters, but also wish these acts were a little bit longer so we could get more out of each hero. Though doubtful, I sincerely hope that DICE creates more of these acts and releases them through their premium season pass, but I fear that that's reserved just for their AAA multiplayer. Well, I say fear, when in reality Battlefield has and always will shine best with its multiplayer experience, and that's where I have to hand it to them yet again. Battlefield 1 features some of the most unforgettable video game experiences I've had this year, and maybe all time. There isn't much new here in the way of game modes, though there is a unique one that has both teams chasing after a pigeon, holding onto it, and eventually releasing it to hopefully get the word out of secret war material.
We have picked up the pigeon.
Ultimately, it's the equivalent of a neutral flag / King of the Hill game variant. I enjoyed it.
We have released the pigeon.
And that leads me to the main feature of their multiplayer suite, and that is what they call Operations. Operations takes a little bit of their storytelling flair and applies it to the multiplayer with a brand new meld of their Rush and Conquest game modes. There are 4 operations maps, each featuring 5 sectors. Each sector contains 2 or 3 flags that has defenders trying to defend and attackers trying to capture. However, unlike Rush, once a point is captured by the attackers, it can be retaken by the defenders. It isn't until all flags within a sector are captured by the attackers will the map shift to a new sector. And if you're a defender behind enemy lines when that happens, well, you'll suddenly appear as a bullseye on the attacker's screen and be met with a hail of bullets as you panically retreat. If the defenders manage to defend a sector and successfully whittle down the allotted points from the attackers, a new round will begin, and the attackers will be reinforced with an infernal war machine, depending on the map. Once 3 rounds have been complete on a given map, depending on the victor, the story will shift, and it'll push the game to another map to continue. I think probably the biggest shift from just doing a server browser game is the length. I've personally been in an operations game that lasts almost 2 hours, it feels like. It's pretty intense. It can't be said more confidently that this mode is the epitome of first-person warplay, and I cannot commend DICE enough for making this all work, as it truly materializes the word epic. I mean, I seriously cannot describe to you the mayhem that occurs when there are less than 50 lives remaining, 1 flag standing, and everyone converging in an all-out bloodbath of brass and lead. It's actually kind of ethereal.
We have lost objective butter.
All hail the Frostbite engine. What a time to be alive. I hope EA realizes the gem they have on their hands, as DICE's Frostbite engine has been optimized to piss excellence. I'm not quite sure how they managed to get a game to look so good, be so detailed, include so much effect, and run at 60 frames per second on all platforms. The only way I can describe the way this game looks, whether you're tiptoeing behind the foggy enemy lines, racing across a war-torn village, flying over the wintry Alps, and especially in the thick of battle, is magical. If I had a baby, I would throw it at my TV every time I booted this game up. Destruction hasn't been this wonderful since Bad Company 2 and can transform nearly any map into a wasteland of rubble. I have to call out that the loading times between multiplayer matches and even getting into and out of the menu itself are somewhat of a drag. Once you're in, that minor annoyance kind of fades away. Then again, if you're playing Operations, you're playing at least 30 to 90 minutes without a loading screen, which is another pro for that mode. And of course, if you're playing on a souped up PC, then you really don't have to worry about this. It was hard for me to imagine playing another Battlefield game without the extensive customization options and really the level of gun pimping we've become grown accustomed to in the past several iterations, but less is definitely more here, and of course it has to make sense for the time period. Sure, you can customize your reticle and gun skin, which are scored via battle packs, aka a treasure chest system. Other major variations to certain weapons must be unlocked through leveling up and collecting war bonds. And of course, the more you play, the more guns become available to you to unlock via those war bonds, and really gives you a reason for the grind. Of course, there are other Battlefield tropes that are furnished for this game, such as the squad system. This essentially allows up to 5 players to join a small unit and act as mobile spawn points for one another. This is nothing new, and was originally posed to help encourage team play and keep a massive lobby of chatters contained to smaller groups. It makes sense for this system would carry over to Battlefield 1, but it feels so modern, and it left me pondering what they could have done to help innovate, or I guess, revert, in this case. Of course, more standard fare is the class system, which received minor tweaks. Medic, Support, Assault, and Scout were treated to also new non-standard classes that are preset loadouts with specific weapons and tools for those who spawn as a pilot, tanker, cavalryman, or epic, which is basically a walking death machine that spits hellfire. On to the topic of difficulty. If you've played a previous shooter or a previous Battlefield, you're going to be able to pick this up with little issue. If you're a first-timer or used to other fast-paced shooters, be prepared to slow it down a bit, as Battlefield is a much more strategic experience. don't let that discourage you, as with time and practice, you'll surely encounter times where you get on a tear and find yourself riding a high of battlefield dominance.
Lost the sector. Retreat to the next sector.
On the single-player side, I've read that many people claim this game isn't that difficult on the hardest setting, but I'd find myself stuck at certain junctures, continually being ass-blasted by shells or swallowing a hail of bullets from the opposing line. It's not the type of stuff that will make you rip your hair out, but it might require you to replay a few spots here and there. All is not quiet on the Western Front. Sound design is something that DICE has pretty much asserted itself as the ruler of the people, throne, and kingdom. The realism, depth, punch, and uniqueness of every weapon is simply spot on and creates a level of immersion that pushes the bar even higher than they previously set. Music in this game is also high quality, not simply filler, but actual original compositions that hit you right in the feels at all the right moments. Though it's very good, there isn't a massive amount of musical material here. You will end up eventually pursing your lips at the 50th time the choir piece comes on at the after battle screen. Still, it is a breath of fresh air that DICE decided to respect the genre and invest in this particular area, maintaining precedence for these types of era games. The achievements and trophies in this game are mostly middle of the road in terms of time required and difficulty. None of them are barbaric by any stretch, but you are looking at least 20 to 30 hours to 100% the title. Most of them lie in the single-player experience, accomplishing codex challenges and collecting field manuals, which can get a bit tedious and often require multiple playthroughs of some chapters. Most of them ultimately are just a matter of time. In fact, a few of them were achieving Class Level 2 in multiplayer, which were some of the more enjoyable ones for me, as I didn't have to focus on doing any one or two things in particular. I could just sit back and play the game, eventually collecting the required XP to level up. One sticks out in my mind that was especially troubling in the High Places Act, that requires you to shoot down 10 planes in 30 seconds. Sounds easy, but most of the planes are thrown at you all at once, and just no. Battlefield 1 was a major gamble for EA and its developer DICE. You'd be hard-pressed to find a AAA developer that will go out on a limb and try something that goes against the grain or what is expected, even if there's a vocal minority trying to encourage it. This entry into the Battlefield franchise is an instant classic. It oozes with spectacle and it provides an overall incredible value. Finding things to constructively criticize in this title are damn near impossible. So you guys know I rate my games on a letter grade basis, and because of all of that, my overall score for Battlefield 1 is a resounding A. It is near perfection. If you're a fan of shooters, history, or want a as close as it can get World War I simulator, Battlefield 1 is your answer. Thank you for watching, and I hope I've given you a useful second opinion. Have a wonderful day.
Ugh.